Hello, everybody. It's me, Albatross. Welcome back. I love Grok because Grok is a very good guide. Like, if you ask Grok a question, like, if you ask, like, let's say, tell me about the McMartin school scandal. Just give me a brief summary. Grok, if a story is worth looking into, Grok will come back and say, oh, it was all BS. It was all a scam. General consensus is that it was a big, giant hoax. Well, that sparked my interest. I'm like, oh, really? Because you see, if you know Grok likes to keep pushing the deep state narratives. For example, when you ask Grok if a genocide occurred against the Jewish people 70 years ago, well, Grok will be honest about that. Grok will be like, well, yeah, without even thinking for too long. Grok's like, yes, immediately. An attempted genocide did happen against the Israelis or Jewish people in the 40s. But when you turn around and ask Grok, is Israel or the IDF trying to perpetrate a genocide in Gaza? Grok will say no. Grok will say no, that it doesn't meet the criteria of what counts as a genocide. And then you can get into all these arguments with Grok about what genocide actually means, the etymology of the word. You see, Grok likes to use the deep state definition, not the actual root word definition most normal people would use. But Grok, it is what it is. So when I asked Grok about to be concise, to break down for me what the McMartin Preschool incident was about, it just came back with a lot of oh, it's a hoax. It's a general consensus that it didn't happen. A bunch of kids were asked a bunch of leading questions. That was their excuse, was that these kids were asked a bunch of leading questions, whatever the fuck that means. Don't worry, we're going to get into some of the things that these kids said, and then I'll leave it up to you to decide whether or not they were telling the truth. And the more you read about this story, the more you see that it freaking reeks of deep state infiltration. It reeks of deep state propaganda. Not the story, but the alleged debunking of the story. You see, like Grok says, you can't go through a news article or a documentary about this topic without them at some point trying to insinuate and to make up to make up the public's mind that this is just a big giant hoax and none of it was real, despite the fact that hundreds of children talked about it. But anyway, let's get into it one little detail at a time. And you know what, you all are smart. Y'all are smart enough to make up your own mind. You don't need to take the opinion of the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, or any other CIA Mockingbird newspaper. Okay? We're all smart. We can make up our own mind what we believe and what we don't believe. Let's go over the facts and the dates and things like that. And the allegations, of course. Let's start in the beginning. Now, this all began in August of 1983. A woman by the name of Judy Johnson told police that doctors told her that they believed her 2-year-old son had been sodomized. Now, this is according to an AE article. And other articles, it just says that she just told police herself. So, I mean, I'm not really sure where this claim that a doctor told her is coming from. Kind of hard to verify that. But there is, some reporting that says that her initial claim was that the doctors told her that they believed her son had been sodomized. Now, like I said, you would think that, I don't know. I don't know. If I was a pediatrician, I myself would have called the police or something. But, who knows? Maybe. Who knows? This is Los Angeles. You know what I mean? They do everything different there. So anyways. So Judy Johnson calls the police and tells them this. And that when she had asked her child, like, who harmed him, he said it was like Mr. Bucky or Mr. Ray or something like that. And who is Ray Bucky? Now, Ray Bucky wasn't just like any old employee at the school, okay? His family was the one who started and ran the school. Like, I think his grandparents had like initially started it. I might have to double check that. It may go back even further in his family. I don't know. But like, it's like him and his family run the place. And, oh, by the way, I don't know if I said this originally, but yeah, this is happening. Like, it's now within a month, by September 1983, Ray Bucky was arrested. And it's interesting because right away, the police kind of ruined their own investigation. And they'll admit it now, but it just makes me wonder, was this intentional? I mean, like, how do you just do this? Like, you like, police officers should know better. Even back in 83, they should have known better than this. Basically, what they did was, since they had one kid claiming, and a 2-year-old at that, like, come on now, a 2-something-year-old at that was sitting there babbling about Ray Bucky, they decided to send letters to the other parents at the school. They sent letters to about 200 different families. And they requested that the parents question their own kids, basically. And they gave them a list of, like, different inappropriate questions that they should be asking their kids. And, like ask your kids if they had been performing oral sex and like things like this. So naturally, and I think the police knew this would happen. They knew without a doubt this would happen. Parents start panicking. They start panicking. And the police decide to refer the parents to the Children's Institute International in Los Angeles, which is like a child therapy center place. And the lead therapist there, basically the same social worker, would interview most of all of these interviews. Hundreds of interviews. Her name was Key McFarlane. And now, Key McFarlane did hundreds of interviews, like I said. I don't know at what point during these interviews that Key McFarlane just realized what was happening. But at some point, maybe after 100 kids, I don't know, giving her maybe the same testimony, after about 100 kids, she's starting to get upset. And naturally, she started asking the remaining kids, like, leading questions and stuff, like, so-and-so said this, did this happen to you? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not, like, trying to defend the way she was asking these questions to these kids. I'm not trying to defend it. But part of me can understand why. Like, and part of me, and, like, this is the excuse that the investigators and, like, the district attorneys gave for this not being the most solid case, was the way she was interviewing some of these kids. Like leading them into certain answers. But, like, one could also argue, though, yeah, but, like, she was doing it for a reason. She wasn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, after so many kids saying this exact same thing happened to them, you know what I mean? Like, she's gonna feel how she's gonna feel. I don't, social worker or not. I mean, this is a lot of kids. Like, too many, in fact, to even use that excuse. Like, yeah, maybe she could have led a few kids into certain answers, but, like, hundreds? Like, hundreds of kids. Like, how did... Like, I don't know. I think I would need more evidence to say that this was false. And maybe there will be. I'm going to be as objective as possible. I'll tell you everything that I've learned about this case, and then you can decide for yourself whether, you think it's true or not. But anyway, so amongst all these interviews, about 7 different teachers got named. Now, we'll get back to Judy Johnson in a minute. We'll focus on this for a second, okay? But, like, hundreds of kids described being abused by 7 different teachers. And about 4 of those teachers were all related to each other, which would be, like, Ray Bucky, his mom, his grandma, and, like, 2 of his sisters were accused by these children of harming them. But whether you believe this was a hoax or whether you know in your heart it's real, it is hard to underestimate like how important this trial, the subsequent trial, and the investigation, how consequential it was for future like interviews with children. And it actually turns out to be, did you know that this was like the most like expensive and longest criminal trial in US history? You see, I didn't know that, but yeah, that like this was a very expensive and lengthy trial, which we'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead. What am I doing? Let me stick to the investigation for the moment. Now, these kids were questioned by Key McFarland, like hundreds of them. I think she like interviewed about 400 kids, and out of the 400 kids she interviewed, she claimed that she believed 360 of them were harmed in one way or the other. And not just harmed, they mentioned satanic ritual abuse. And some believe this is kind of what started the satanic panic. And in my opinion, this is what started the psyop called the satanic panic. This is my opinion, because they wanted to distract you from this. Because this started a chain reaction. It's like, it wasn't even just McMartin. Now, in other episodes, I'm gonna like research more into the other schools. But during this time, during this investigation, about like 6 other daycares and preschools in the surrounding area had similar claims of satanic ritual abuse by the staff members. Keep in mind the difference between a preschool and an elementary school. There is a huge difference, okay? A preschool is all children pre-kindergarten age. That means children like 5 and under. Like babies could be coming here. Like it's essentially a daycare center that like prepares kids for like school. It's essentially more or less what a preschool is. And it's a daycare. So yeah, but in future episodes, we'll get into the other schools. Right now, let's focus on McMartin, because this is what started this all. McMartin is what started it all. So, excuse me. Ray Buckey was arrested September 7th, 1983. Okay. Now, I'm going to just let you know, these are some of the things that these kids testified to. Now, remember, she interviewed about 400 kids, and they all had some, and about 360 of them described some details of abuse. And here are just some of the things they were describing. Okay? Some kids described playing inappropriate games, like Naked Movie Star. Some kids said a lot of kids actually said the abuse took place in tunnels. Some kids said that the abuse also took place at local businesses. Some accounts say that that the teachers killed small animals like rabbits and turtles in order to scare them. Some kids even describe babies being sacrificed at churches, like on altars. One student claimed they were taken to a graveyard where he helped unearth a coffin and saw a body cut up with knives. There were other preschool children who mentioned teachers dressed as witches and flying in the air. And the list goes on and on. That's just like a small bit of the kinds of things these kids, preschool kids, were telling this therapist. I don't care how much she led them on. How do these children just make this stuff up? You can't tell me that all the 360 kids made this up. Especially where many of them were telling the same things over and over and over again. Like about the tunnels. Oh, no, don't worry. We're going to get back to those tunnels in just a second. Because it's a subject of a lot of contention, a lot of controversy. We'll get back to that in a minute. But anyways, and in February 1984, there was like a whole broadcast that aired that was describing like all of these things that these kids were talking about. Let me know if any of you all were around for that. I wasn't born at this point in 1984, but let me know for those of you who have seen this broadcast. But anyways, like I said, okay. So the CII, which is the Children's Institute International in Los Angeles, they said, like I said, that 386 out of 400 children detailed being abused. By the way, any of those children from McMartin, I know this is a real long shot. Any of you happen to come across this video, please email me, albatrossairwaves@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. I believe you. I would love to hear from you. Okay, back to the story. Okay, so the Children's Institute and the prosecutors at Manhattan Beach would allege that these people at this preschool were operating like a child porn ring. And because a lot of these kids describe like being videotaped and whatnot. So that would be the allegation. Okay. And we'll get back to that too. And in April 1984, Bucky, his mom, his sisters, the founder of the school, which is his grandmother, and other teachers were all indicted via a grand jury. And here's the interesting part. Sorry about that. Here's the interesting part, okay? All these people were indicted. His own grandmother was indicted, but the prosecutors weren't even trying to indict her. The grand jury just charged her because there was just so much that they, like, I guess, disturbing about this. The prosecutors weren't even asking for that. But the grand jury did, which is crazy to me. But anyway, so they were all, and also two other teachers were also indicted too, on 208 counts of abuse and conspiracy. And then the trial was scheduled for January 1986. This was in April 1984. They scheduled the trial for January 1986. But a week later, guess what? A new district attorney said there was a brand new district attorney out of nowhere said all of a sudden comes out and does like in front of the public says, oh, well, these, there's really weak evidence and they're weak charges. And he dropped everyone but Bucky and his mom. So the grandmother, the two other teachers, and the sisters were all basically dropped from all this. And as for the first mom, and because Judy Johnson, they tried to discredit her because in 1985, conveniently before the trial, she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And I'm not sure why does that matter if the doctors told her they believed her son was sodomized. I'm not sure why it matters if she has schizophrenia. But either way, and then convenient for Ray Bucky, she dies in 1986. So, And it says she died from alcohol-related liver disease. Is that, I don't know. Let me see how old she is real quick. Okay, she was 42 years old when she died. And she, bless her heart, she had the baby would have been 3 by then maybe, but I don't know, that's awful young to me. I've known some pretty hardcore alcoholics. I know everybody's different, everyone processes alcohol differently, but I don't know. 42 seems awful young to die from an alcohol-related liver disease. But I don't know, you let me know. Maybe I'm just, tripping. Okay, but either way, convenient, inconvenient for them. I don't know why that matters when you've got, hundreds of other kids who are saying the same thing. Why does it matter what the first one did or didn't do? It's it's a deep state tactic. You know what I mean? They try to discredit the first one. They think if they can discredit the first person, it automatically discredits everybody else, which is dumb. I feel like we've moved beyond that. Anyways, maybe not in the 80s, but we certainly have now. Rest in peace, justice for Judy Johnson and her son. Okay, but anyways, so this trial turned into a big spectacle, probably on purpose, and the trial begins in 1987 and doesn't end until January 1990. Like, this went on like over 2 years. This was like an over 2-year long trial. Like, what the heck? And for all of that, okay, listen, this is what happened. Basically, Ray Bucky and his mom were found not guilty on 52 counts, and then the jury deadlocked on 12 molestation charges. But the judge ended up declaring it a mistrial. Isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient? First it was the district attorney, now it was the judge. You know what I mean? It's just like with hundreds of kids. And listen, it was pretty wrong. They made like cross-examine kids and whatnot. It was awful. This trial was such a spectacle. It was such a madhouse. It was ridiculous. And they claimed they couldn't find the basis was, they also, because they discredited the one mom. Another thing they said that they didn't find any physical evidence. I'm not sure what physical evidence they'd be looking for. Oh yeah, they said that they thought they would find like fluids and remains from the animals that these teachers were sacrificing. I don't know why they actually thought that they would find that. Like, why wouldn't they destroy their evidence? Like, what? So that was one of the things they said. Another things they said, they couldn't find evidence that there was any child porn. Like, really? You really expect to just find that? And like another thing, they didn't find evidence of the tunnel. According to the FBI and the police, they said they didn't find any evidence of the tunnel. Well, some of these parents, obviously and rightfully pissed that they were being gaslit and everything by these people, they literally hire an archaeologist to go to this school to see if this archaeologist can find any underground tunnels. In 1993, long after, Ray Bucky was acquitted of these charges and his mom, and they just basically got away with all of this. In 1993, guess what? An archaeologist actually found a tunnel. Isn't that funny? The archaeologist found what the FBI and the pathetic Los Angeles police couldn't find. Tunnels. The archaeologist legit found tunnels. And even like described in great detail like how big these tunnels were, that they were hand made, and like all these details about these tunnels. And yeah, of course, the archaeologist was gaslit. Full disclaimer, the archaeologist was gaslit. And because some people came out and said, well, these were old trash heaps. Well, you should have said that the first time. Allegedly, the FBI and the police thoroughly searched and didn't find any evidence of a tunnel, when this archaeologist literally found not only the tunnel, but found an entrance. Found the entrance and documented it. Hold on, let's see if we can get to that picture. Oh, that's Ray Bucky and his mom on trial, by the way. Ray Bucky, him and his acquittal. Oh, wait, before we get to the picture of the tunnel entrance, what do y'all think of that cabinet in the corner? Isn't that like really creepy and unsettling? I have no idea why, but it really gives me the creeps. That face. I don't know why. It just really gives me the creeps. Anyway, here's the picture of the tunnel entrance that the archaeologist found. The FBI and the police must have not looked that hard. It's not like it was buried. It was like in a back room somewhere or in a basement somewhere. So it's not like they looked that hard. But the archaeologist found it and shone a light in it to show that adults could fit down that tunnel. It wasn't just simply like a trash tunnel. So they did find the tunnel. Now, I will let you know, I did read that in 2005 that apparently one of these children out of like 360, one of these children came out and said in 2005 that they lied and that they were pushed to lie or something by the lady Key McFarland who interviewed them back in the 80s. Now, that was just one kid out of 360. So, that doesn't, in my mind, fully discredit everyone else. Like, I don't know why they want so bad, like, one or two people to discredit everything else. Like, in my mind, just a simple fact that 360 admitted to this happening. Like, think what you will about Key McFarland, but maybe after about 100 kids, she already just pretty much assumed that she was going to keep hearing this. Like, someone even, like, she had worked with who was there during this time said that, like, yeah, at some point when we realized what we were dealing with, after like dozens and dozens of kids saying the same thing, we kind of course we were going to ask, certain questions. You know what I mean? Because, it was clear that this was something that was actually happening. Now, so I'm trying to give grace to Key McFarland. I mean, some skeptics might say that maybe she was trying to ask these type of questions on purpose to discredit them. I mean, who knows? That could be true too. I mean, all these people kind of work together, like the police, so it's just a shame. But these children never got any justice. They were gaslit. Grok is saying that it was a hoax. So you know what I mean? Maybe and these are preschool age children. These were preschool age children. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, I have a hard time believing that you're just going to convince a preschool child to, our 360 of them. Maybe, yeah, you can convince some of them, but 360 of them. And it's honestly, if even just one of them had these claims, if even just one of these children had these claims, that's enough for me to throw the book at these people. Why is it 100 children in when it sounds like the social worker is asking what you would call leading questions? Is that just I don't know, they were just so quick to throw this out, so quick to dismiss it. Everybody involved, the district attorney, then a judge who just totally acquitted this whole trial. In my opinion, you don't have a year and a half trial if there's nothing there. What do you mean? It's out of 360 kids? Now, not all 360 went to trial. Only 9 or 10 of them did. And a lot of them didn't even finish their testimony because the cross-examination was horrible. It was evil. But this whole thing, this whole case, it's just I think it's worth looking back into. It's worth talking about again. Because, yeah, especially what we know now that's been going on. And this all took place close to Los Angeles. Los Angeles has always been a hub for this kind of activity and behavior. So, no, I 100% believe this happened. And I have a right to believe that. Now, I tried to give you everything I learned about it, so, you can make up your own mind. Maybe the children were led into saying certain things. That's up to you. I am willing to believe that 360 kids, I think there's something there. But that's just, and there was a tunnel there, come to find out. There was a tunnel there. They were not making that up. By the way, that freaking face, I don't mean to keep going back to it, but I don't know what it is about that face that is just so disturbing, in my opinion. I don't understand what is disturbing me so much about this face, but is it the eyes that look so dim? I don't know. Anyways, it creeps me out though. But what do you all think? You all let me know if any of you remember this happening. If any of you kids are there, I would love to talk to you. I want to get to the bottom of this. Look more into this. This whole story is fascinating to me. It's fascinating how they went from this to saying that people were just panicking about Satanism. I don't know. You just let me know. And we'll also look more into the schools surrounding McMartin, who also had similar allegations. But anyways, I'll talk to you all later.